That's a good one. Yes. Michelle, that's the best of all of your slides. That's the best one you've ever done. Yeah, I know. That's where I visualize. Instead of griping about the fog yesterday, I thought, what would make me feel better? To be laying on the beach. And we all keep talking around it. You had posted something. Like for days I've been talking about visualizing it because apparently, you know, a lot of these guys like Dispenza or whatever, when they talk about memories, they say when you relive a memory, your body interprets it as if it's happening now. So if that is true, then is it possible, could you visualize being in a serene spot and your body responds as if you're actually on vacation? It's kind of an interesting, you know, some of the, I won't call them cults, but some of these groups like Ekankar or whatever that got into astral projection, that was kind of where they started. It's like, you know, leaving your body and have a body experience. But anyway, it was fun talking about it. And it is sunny outside today, so maybe we can connect those dots. Maybe joking about the Bahamas brought a little Bahama here. Oh, Lord. Jackie's got his shirt on. He's ready to go. And his beach hat. I'm surprised you didn't come in with swimmies on. Like, all right, I'm ready. Well, thank you for being here. It is a beautiful day, and Eddie says it's going to be a great day, so we'll agree with his words. You'll be the prophet in the house today. We're in agreement, so please remain standing. We'll play this for the YouTube audience. Please.
Hello, and welcome to Metron. Metron means measure and sphere of influence, and we want to help you find your Metron. Through motivation, enlightenment, transcendence, renewal, outreach, and networking. We're excited to have you here today and hope you enjoy the service.
Good morning, beautiful people. Give yourselves a big hand. Welcome, streaming audience, wherever you are in the universe, whatever time zone you are in. Those of you that took me seriously and are already in the Bahamas, I hope you have a good time. And I had planned on just milking the joke. I was going to come back and I'd picked up pictures of beautiful sunsets. I was going to say, this is what BJ took earlier tonight. Here's a couple that Ken took. That was the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. And let's see if it works retroactively. And then I was going to say, I just want to tell everybody there's been a computer glitch, and so they can't charge you for your rooms. So whatever you've paid for in your room, they're totally free, including any upgrades. So if you got a nicer room, and plus I've contacted all of your employers, and they've given you an extra 2 or 3 days off. I wrote you a note. Please excuse. So as we need a Bahamas meditation weekend. But now that we've joked about it, it's out there in the atmosphere, so we'll be going. Yeah, so maybe we thought the fog away. About time. But I love y'all for getting it, for getting it, what I was doing, and thank you very much. All right, wow, this month has gone so fast. Goodness gracious. But it's been a pleasure to have Jonah and Sophie here with us. We feel like she's part of the family. And so I'm glad that he's here with us one more day. And like I told you, Judah will be here next Sunday and for the month of March. So I'm sure that'll be good. And without any further ado, would you please welcome the one, the only Jonah Swilley.
Thanks, guys. Good morning. All right. Charles, if I may have a little more vocal, please. Crank it up. Actually, let's run it from the top and then just. Can we run it from the top, Charles? There's a light in my life shining over me. There's a light in my life shining over me. Yeah, with your blessings from above, fill me with that precious love. There's a light in my life shining over me. Sometimes I sit and wonder why strange things happen to me. And I look around and I see that my friends are all gone. Yeah, but when I put my trust in Jesus, my balance is returned. Can't you see there's a light in my life shining over me? There's a light in my life shining over me. There's a light in my life shining over me. Yeah, with your blessings from above, fill me with that precious love. There's a light in my life shining over me. Lord, walk with me and talk with me. Please stay close by my side. Be my shelter, be my comfort, be my guide. Yeah, I was blind, but now I see. Jesus came in and he rescued me. There's a light in my life shining over me. There's a light in my life shining over me. There's a light in my life shining over me. Yeah, with your blessings from above, fill me with that precious love. There's a light in my life shining over me. There's a light in my life shining over me. There's a light in my life shining over me. Thank you guys. All right. Here come old flat top, he come moving up slowly. He got juju eyeballs, he one holy roller. He got hair down to his knee. Gotta be a joker, he just do what he please. He wear no shoe shine, he got Georgian football, he got monkey finger, he shoot Coca-Cola, he say, I know you, you know me, but one thing I can tell you is you gotta be free. Come together right now. over me. He bad production, he got walrus gum, but he got side and sideboard. He won spinal cracker, he got his feet below, down to his knee. And you hold him in his armchair, you gon' feel his disease come together right now over me. He roller coaster, he got early warning, he got muddy water, he won mojo filter, he say 1 and 1 and 1 is 3. Got to be good looking cause he's so hard to see. Come together right now over me. Thanks. Thank you guys. This next one I've covered before. It's written by a world-class songwriter, but I redid the track, but hopefully it comes across okay in this room. Such a hurry, cares of this life seem to occupy your mind. Always seeming to worry about all the things you have to do, trying to find the time. There's so many things that I want to tell you. So many things your father wants to say, but I can't get you to give me just 5 minutes of your important day. I need you to be still and know that I am God. And I will give you rest. Be still, know that I am God. Be still, know that I am God. Though I've never been too busy to stop and listen anytime you call. You know I've never been too big for you, and I've never seen your smallest problem as too small. If you just be still and let me love you, let me whisper the words to ease your mind. You'll always find rest in my presence. I'm the only refuge where joy and peace you'll find. I need you to be still and know that I am God. Come be heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Be still, know that I am God. Still, know that I am God. Be still, know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Come ye heavy laden, I will give you rest. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Come ye heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God.
Jonah Swilley. That was awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. You may be seated. Since you did a Beatles song and one of my songs, I would have said you were my favorite, but now that your brother came in and surprised me, I can't say that. No, actually, I like that. That was cool track you did of it. Thank you. I think the song just celebrated its 40th anniversary. Yeah. Nice surprise to see Pastor Judah and Stacy with us, looking beautiful as always. Didn't know they were coming, but glad you're all here. And for those of you that came in late, the Bahamas was a joke. I think some people thought I was serious and didn't show up this morning. I've given you short notice, but I would give you more than 24 hours. I was assuming there was a few people I just deleted because they were like, "Is this for real?" I'm like, seriously, you really think I'm saying? As Jackie said, the Bahamas actually has several islands. You just don't fly, get a ticket. What? Well, in the past, I assumed people thought I was joking. I would say something like, Oprah called and she wants me to be, and people are like, oh, praise God, I'm like, oh, no, I'm joking. I don't expect people to take it that seriously. And sometimes then I feel bad about it, like the time, bless his heart, when we were in line for the White House. I came out, it's when Obama was still president. I said, Michelle wants to have tea with us. He was out of that line and halfway up the sidewalk. I said, Baby, I'm kidding. I shouldn't have joked. I thought you knew I was joking. Which, by the way, he was on call last week, and it's Addie's 4th birthday party today. At for some reason at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, but so there's that. So he's going being a granddad today. He will be back. I'm having the kids over to watch the Oscars tonight, so he'll be back to help me host this evening. All right, our outreach this month is the Innocence Project, and it's a really cool organization. We're doing it in honor of Black History Month, even though it is not specifically an African American charity. It does, however, largely affect the Black community. And it's a great organization that actually does DNA testing for people who have been falsely accused of crimes. Some men have been in prison for 30 years on a false rape charge. And so DNA is the only way to get it reversed. So I love giving to places I know are actually doing something that's practical and just gets things done. You know, like even we gave, what's the name of that organization that does the thing for the babies with cleft palates? Smile something? Smile of a Child. I like it because they're specifically doing a specific thing instead of just throwing money at, problems in the world. Like, oh, they're doing that. Okay, I can get behind that. I like that. So I'm not sure where we'll be giving next month, but I feel really good about this one. And Avery's been including some really good information about some things about Black History Month that I didn't know. And I've just things that people have posted this month. Things I've learned a lot from several things. Even this morning, so I'd never seen this before. Somebody on my feed had posted a picture of Harriet Tubman's funeral in 1913. I'd never seen that picture, and it's like a graveside, and there's people standing, nice crowd, and her last words were, "I go and prepare a place for you," which was kind of what she did with the Underground Railroad. So that was cool, and obviously it's a necessary thing. I don't know. Do we have anything for Year of Living Your Best Life? I don't remember. Did I post? Oh yeah, it was. That's all me. That's something I ate, and that's something I ate. So I lived my best life this week. I don't know what y'all did, but there's mine. I guess the rest of y'all too ashamed to post what y'all ate. Or drank. Come on, Jesus. So anyway, there's that. Thank you for continuing to do that. And what we're doing now, instead of me giving you a specific challenge, you just find something that speaks to you living your best life and use the hashtag. And y'all are using the hashtags correctly now, so thank you for that. The two things I need to announce, as I already told you before you came in, Judah will be with us next month. Speaking of March, we have our next, for real, meditation weekend on March the 23rd and 24th. That's in Stone Mountain Park. And some of you are already staying there. There's a couple of nice places to stay. And I still haven't figured out where we'll meet in the park, but several people have wanted to go to the top of the mountain. We'll see. I got to figure out how to get everybody up there and get. But there's plenty of space. And then while you're making your plans, remember our meditation weekend number 6 will be returning to St. Simon's on May 18th and 19th, and that's those sunsets on the sunrises and sunsets, especially sunrises on St. Simon's are just, I've never seen anything like it, just amazing. And so I hope you'll be able to be there for both of them. And let me see, was it everything else I needed to announce? What? Oh yes, April 28th will be. We will not be here in the theater. We'll be going to Inspire with Pastor / Representative Greg Kennard. It's their 20th anniversary, and he just does amazing work with not just what Inspire does. They don't just go like give food to homeless people. They actually get people off the streets and help them get job skills and get back on their feet. I've seen a lot of programs. I've never seen one that's been this successful in really bringing about legitimate change, not just, coming out and giving people turkey dinners on Thanksgiving, but actually something they can point to that changes. So anyway, I'm honored. I am still a bishop. I actually still cover churches, and Greg is still a pastor, and all that's intact. That was everything we needed to announce. Okay, well, thanks for coming. God bless you. Go in peace. No, are we ready for the podcast? All right. Welcome to the Metron Live podcast, coming to you live from beautiful, historic Midtown Atlanta, Georgia, in the hippest independent theater in the metro area. Metron people, would you please give the podcast people a big welcome? That was good. That was very, very nicely done on the applause. This month, we've been doing a series, the title of which is The Liberated Heart, Freeing Yourself from the Past and Breaking the Addiction to Fear. I'm going to sort of give it a recap today and sort of connect the dots with several things that are just sort of in my spirit. Let me just say that there are some times when revelation flows or you have inspiration. There are other times that your emotions are speaking your emotion is speaking louder than your spirit, I guess. And I've been doing this long enough that I can just power through and come up with something. But I also know there's a time to sort of step back and listen to what a situation is saying to you. I mentioned when I was joking about going to the Bahamas, I said I was been going through something recently that got really ratcheted up to a very difficult evening, Friday night. An evening that started out with edamame and Thai food ended up in something I don't even want to go into. And it's just, I'm at a place now where I don't even want to ask people to pray for things. I just think, well, this is a reality of what I'm going through. It's a thing that just comes with the territory. Like when people ask me how your parents doing, it's not that I'm being evasive. It's just that there's only so many things you can say about, well, they have this situation and these are the symptoms of it, and thanks for asking. But really what I'd rather you just say is thinking about you, praying for your parents, don't make somebody go through the report again, because you're either going to have to just call those things which are not as though they are, and people that aren't tuned in don't understand because if you say everything's fine, they're like, oh, well, praise the Lord. I guess the prayers are working. Like, no, they're not fine. We're fine, but just understand the communication. And that's what I liked about my Bahamas post yesterday, because you got it. And it wasn't just about this. It was just, frankly, I was tired of looking at the fog. I've got a big picture window, and I have not seen what's left of my view. There's a big building going up that's going to alter my view considerably. But I haven't even seen that. The last several days, it's just looked like a gray sheet has been hung in front of my window. So yesterday I thought, well, what would be a way for me to sort of explain that I kind of don't want to be here today without being negative, because I know words are very powerful, so I don't want to energize something negative. Let me be kind of tongue-in-cheek and say, I've called an impromptu meditation weekend in the Bahamas in the morning. Go ahead and book your flight and get a room, and I'll see you there. And thankfully, most of y'all are tuned in enough to get it. And I was automatically getting people saying, well, I'm ordering you a drink, or what did Joe had said, we got a fire pit. I'm like, do you have wine? Because I ain't coming without wine. And oddly enough, that was a better way to deal with yesterday than asking for people to pray about it. Do you understand? I'm not anti-prayer, but sometimes prayer can nearly be counterproductive. Prayer nearly becomes a way for you to tell people that something's wrong and to get people energizing something that's like they start agreeing with you in a negative way. Do you understand? So I would rather just say, this is code for, I'd rather be in the Bahamas today with not dealing with life. And that's not just me, that's probably everybody. I'd like to, instead of looking at the gray out my window, I'd love to see some sunlight and some beach and all that kind of stuff. And interestingly enough, it worked. I think it actually was more effective than if I said, y'all, I'm going through some stuff. Y'all pray. Have you ever put that out and then everybody starts praying? You're like, why do I feel worse than I felt before I sent out the prayer request? Now I just got everybody feeling sorry for me. I don't want that. I want to be in the Bahamas. And so, interesting, it was, I already said this earlier, but it was kind of like a thought experiment because I thought, well, even joking about it, and because I was making a joke and you were making a joke, it was kind of like agreement. Do you understand? It was like saying, I get what you're saying, and without me just reading too much into it, what I see is, I'm going through my own stuff too. Yeah, a drink on the beach would be really nice for me as well. And so it's a way for us to come up higher than what's happening here, to say, you're going through stuff, I'm going through stuff, I already know about yours, you already know about mine. There's no point in us rehashing it one more time and injecting steroids into this thing and making it even worse than it actually is, because it just is what it is. So let's come up here, and even though we're sort of joking, we're also, in a way, kind of calling those things which are not as though they are. And furthermore, something has happened to me in the last, I don't know if New Year's Eve midnight was some kind of transformational time for you, but it kind of was for me. And that doesn't mean everything's been perfect this year. It means everything's been clear. And so when something that we used to would have called a trial or a tribulation, or if you really go old school, attack of demons or whatever, now it's just stuff that happens that I just want to listen to now. I want to say, all right, well, what does this mean? I don't want to get depressed about it. I don't want to get upset about it. I want to understand it. What is this thing saying to me? And it may be a painful lesson, and it may show me something about myself that is difficult to look at, but I'll look at it, and it sort of becomes more of a learning experience. And to me, that's a more proactive way of dealing with life, because it's just life. Do you know what I mean? I could tell you things that I'm dealing with my parents that some of you have been through with your parents, and we could bond around that. But it's not gonna help you, and it's not gonna help me. Do you understand? And I have to know that you're there for me. If I really need to be more specific, I'll tell you. But otherwise, yeah, there's some days it's crap. It's just crap. And when people, when people have dementia, they say things that you're like, wow, I'm going to have to chalk that up to your state of mind and not take that seriously. Kind of the way you were with your kids. When your kids said things, you're like, I'm going to just judge you in your 5-year-old mind or whatever. And so it's rites of passage that many of us have been through. I don't want to ignore it, but I also don't want to make my life all about that. I want to take care of what I got to take care of, and deal with what I have to deal with. It was interesting. This morning, somebody who I'm friends with who lives in Prague messaged me, and he said, I saw what you posted, and we've got a room for you. I want you to come to Prague. We'd love to have you and just chill out, and you can stay as long as you want to, whatever. So I said, I would love to, but I'm an only child, and I'm sole caretaker of my parents, so I can't be that far away. To which he comes back. He's an only child. His situation is so much more extreme than mine because his parents have Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and because of whatever his visa is, he can only stay in the States. He can't stay longer than 21 days. So his situation was so much. Like, I thought he was going to say, oh, wow, I didn't know. He was like, oh, yeah, I know, and blah, blah, blah. And it actually was like, I'll be thinking about you. Hang in there, stay strong. I wanted to say, if I had a room, I would say, come stay with us and chill out. And again, it's a way of, let's deal with it, let's acknowledge it, let's not get stuck there, and then let's take it to another level and learn from it. I think everything you learn from, it's like life is teaching you something. Avery and I had this conversation Thursday. I said, this may kind of sound like an extreme, but I look back on everything now, even things that a few years ago I would have called negative, and now I just think, oh, now I know what that feels like. It's like, oh, that's what a divorce feels like. That's what all the things I've experienced, like, oh, that's what that's like. Okay. And it's kind of like, this sounds abstract, but it's like going to a parade or going to a thing and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I got to see this. I'm glad I got to experience this. I want to know what life is like. It helps you understand the journey and understand empathy. And it's not I know when I say it, it sounds like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. No, it's just life. And when you look at it and deal with it and face it and detach yourself from ego and take your own responsibility for your own creation of things and say, some of it's good, some of it's not so good. All of it has worked together for good. And so when I say I'm in a good place today, it doesn't mean I'm like, la, 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 everything. It's like I'm sober, but I'm good. The other thing, and this is where I want to segue, because next month I've kind of taught around this, and we talk about it a lot, but I don't think I've ever really gone in depth at Metron on this, and I want to talk about how your body wants to heal itself, how that we are prone to healing. You think about every time in your life you've ever cut yourself or wounded yourself, and the fact that think about if you didn't have the ability to heal. Can you imagine what you would look like with every time as a kid you fell off a bike or whatever? Like if I went over that wall and that drywall and stabbed it and cut it and whatever, it would need to be patched up. It doesn't have the ability to heal itself, but we do. And so I'm very interested in just a lot of things. My antenna's out. Like the other night I was listening to, there's no outline today. I'm speaking a stream of consciousness. Are you okay? But I was listening to, on Oprah's podcast, she was interviewing Eckhart Tolle. I like Eckhart Tolle. I can only listen to him for a short amount of time before I get saturated. It's so deep and his accent's thick, and I just have to kind of get a little bit of it and go, okay, that was good. I gotta turn it off. You might be deeper than me. But anyway, he was talking about something that's not specifically about physical healing, but if you ever read his book, A New Earth, he has this concept of what he calls a pain body, and how that, it's kind of what Joe Dispenza talks about when he says your body eventually becomes your mind because it absorbs all of your memories. And I've just been talking about this to everybody. Even Steve wasn't here this morning, but we were talking about it this week about, because he's a seeker and he's really interested in healing and wanting to know, like, why are some things so easy just to get over, and there's other things, like long-term pain in your body or something. You think, why can I get through that and not through this? And what Tolley was, his concept is that all of the painful experiences you've collected in your life have been absorbed into this other part of you that he calls the pain body. And he uses an example. He says, like, have you ever been in an argument with somebody and before you know it, you're saying stuff that you don't really mean? Like, you hear this stuff come out of you and you're like, I'm not even this mad. Why am I saying these horrible things? And he said, because it's not really you talking, it's your pain, but it's that part of you that's been so wounded and you've put that aside, that it's like nearly like another personality overtakes you. I think people have broken up. I think people have left churches prematurely. I think friendships have ended because people said things they really didn't mean and they didn't know why they were saying it. And then in the after it's out there, pride says, well, I can't retract it. And before you know it, I mean, I'm telling you, I know I've disconnected from people that to this day I miss. And I think, well, I wish I could undo that. And I know they've said the same thing. I can't tell you the people over, like, I remember I had a neighbor years ago when I was in another life, but I remember it was a couple across the street, and I looked one day, and there was like a big moving truck in front of the house, and I saw the wife, who was friends of, I was married to Jerry and Christina's mom then. They were friends of ours, and I saw her moving all the furniture out of the house. And I didn't see him anywhere. So I called, I said, I'm not trying to be in your business, but are you leaving? I said his name. And she says, yeah, and I don't want him to know. I said, well, you know I'm his friend. I'm gonna call him and tell him before he drives home today that nothing's going to be in the house. And she and I didn't end well because she didn't want me to tell him. But I just said, I called him work. I said, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you need to know when you get home, there's not going to be anything in your house. Well, she had no idea she was even leaving or whatever. Years later, I was at a funeral. I mean, nearly 20 years later, I was at a funeral that she was at, and she told me, we were being, cordial. We were being funeral nice. When you're right there by the corpse, it's not, you just have to be grown-ups. And I was like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you since that day. And so then, I did go here. I said, well, I heard that he got married again. And she said, my God, it was the hardest day of my life. She said, I nearly killed myself that day if I could do anything. I said, well, he sure doesn't know that, just so you know. And maybe 15, 18, 20 years ago, you should have told, oh, it was the worst thing I ever did, worst decision. And I remember going through all of the pain with him about what it was like when, my life is ruined, I'll never love again or whatever. And somehow he went on with his life. And I assumed that now that's been another, 15 years ago that I saw her. So I'm sure probably she went on with her life. I remember thinking, wow, that's unfortunate. Instead of her saying, I had to get out of there and I never looked back. That's not what she said at all. She was like, it was the worst decision I ever made. I've cried every day. Just all kind of stuff. I said, wow, that's the last thing I expected you to say. So when Tolley talks about that, he's talking about dealing with unresolved issues. And there's, I go back and forth on this. There's a part of me that says, if it's dead, leave it in the ground. Then there's another part of me that says, if it's stinking up your life, you might need to deal with it. But then this other thing about how things affect your physical body, I've been looking at that. Like, why do certain things, like this could sound like I'm grasping at straws, but I've really dealt with this thing in my shoulder for a long time. Like years ago when I worked out, it's why I stopped working out. And when I started working out again, it's kind of revisited. And it's not working out in general because it's not in other parts of my body. Be different if if every part of me was hurting, then I'd say, well, I'm just lifting too much or whatever. But this is like, what's the deal? So, sometimes you just really have to go deep. And I think, is there some kind of emotional connection with being left-handed? I don't know. I mean, I don't think there was that. But I remember being in first grade. I loved school. Loved it. I didn't go to kindergarten. Kindergarten wasn't mandatory back then. And I wanted to because I didn't have other children around me. I saw kids once a week at Sunday school. The rest of that, I was isolated. So when I first went to first grade, I remember walking in there going, oh, my God, there's this many other people my size? I had no idea. I remember Mom saying, we thought you were going to be so traumatized because you were an only child. She said, the car hadn't even stopped, and the door was open, and she said, you didn't even look back. She said, well, we were crying, and I said, you were like, bye. And I mean, I loved school. But also, back then, I was kind of on the tail end of this. By the time I came into elementary school, this had pretty much gone away. But there was a time if kids were left-handed, they tried to make them right-handed. And, the whole world is geared for right-handed people. Like when you have those half desks, they're always for right-handed people. Composition pads are always scissors are for right. I mean, you clearly, the educational system tells you early on, you're not like the rest of everybody. And I remember, and I don't know that this is connected at all. I'm just saying, I'm wanting to go deep. If there's a pain body that's making this shoulder hurt this bad, let's go find that inner child and get that little boy healed so I can start sleeping on my left side again, if that's it. Do I have doctor's approval for this? Is it my chiropractor and sort of my guru is back there agreeing. So I remember I loved my teacher, but I was a little bit scared of her. She was old school hard. Like I remember we made presents for our dads on Father's Day. We made ashtrays, which it was lost for my dad, but it was what it was. But on Mother's Day, we had to bring in a thing for dishwashing detergent, and you took the top of it and we made a flower vase out of it. And I'd worked really hard, and I remember Miss Camilla Williams. I remember her little tight perm and her ear bobs. But I remember her saying, I'm going to walk up and down the aisles, and I'm going to attach your name to the thing. Do not put your name tag on it till I get there. Well, I picked up, I wasn't trying to be defiant. I just picked it up and stuck it on top until she got there. She interpreted that as I was intentionally disobeying her, and she threw it away. And I don't know if she was just trying to make a point and meant to give it back to me, but she didn't. And I remember going home for Mother's Day and saying, I made a thing for you, but Miss Williams threw it away, and I don't have anything. And I just, that was, y'all look so sad. I gotcha. I knew if I told enough sad stuff, it finally. No. So I loved her, but I was scared of her because she didn't play. She meant, do not stick that thing on top of the thing, which I did. She showed me, buddy, for the rest of my life, I never stuck a name tag on any place it shouldn't be. Lesson learned. But I remember her standing over me because, I don't know, are there any lefties here? Cheryl, do you write backwards like that, or do you write like this? Yeah, well, most left-handers write like this. And I remember her standing over me and she said, Jimmy, if you just can't write with your right hand, at least hold your pencil over your shoulder. And I remember, and I'm not exaggerating, when I would do it, it would literally make me nauseous. It was so wrong for the way my brain is wired. I didn't know what vertigo was, but back then I remember the room spinning, and that sounds dramatic. It's not like I passed out or anything, but I just remember when I would do it, I'd be like, oh, God, I feel queasy. And, you know, she'd try to make me write like that, and I was so terrified, and I remember, like, trying to write like that and being sick and tears coming down, and, like, I'm just, you know, dear Lord, if she threw my thing away, no, Lord knows what she'll do to me if I don't. So again, I may be just totally grasping at straws, but I'm willing to say, well, if our cells are constantly being renewed, and if you ever read, I'll have to get the information to say it right, but like you get a new whatever every so often. Like it's like every 3 months you get a new liver, you get a new heart, you get a new, so they don't even know exactly why we age, because we really technically shouldn't age because your cells are being renewed constantly. Even this morning, I was up early. Rutherford wrote a lot this morning. But one of the things that I will mention, oh Lord, you think I'm candid. I mean, I am the pastor of First Baptist compared to Rutherford. But one of the things he wrote, which I thought was very compelling, he said that somebody wrote him and said he was too old to be adopting children. He said it's unfair to them because you'll be dead before they're a certain age or whatever. And he was making a very strong case. I thought he made his case very, like he said, I've thought about all of these things and explaining why, because he continues to, he wants to adopt another one. He's got 10 kids of his own and 19 grandkids. I mean, I have to say, if anybody had a thing for having kids, it would be him. That seems to have transcended sexual orientation or whatever. Even before he got married, he said when he was a young man, he used to go to the hospital and sit with expectant families who were having babies and be there when the baby was born and cry with them, whatever. I said, you and me are alike in a lot of ways, but not that one. I mean, I was there when my kids were born, but I didn't go in there when your kids are born. I mean, I'll come by and say, oh, they're cute. And, but it's like, that's your time. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't need me in the, you're like, thanks, Bishop. Move on now. I just want to be here to experience. Like, no, this is our time. But, he was making a case for even longevity. He said he just did a funeral for a woman who was 102, and I thought it was a very compelling thing that he wrote. Like he's not saying I'm never going to die, but he's saying let's challenge that as long as we can. And he said I find that being around children actually keeps me younger, and I'm like, so without you saying anything, I know what you're saying. Hey, I feel you. You and me have already had that grandparent conversation. You ain't got to tell me. Being a grandparent is awesome. I love picking my granddaughters up and having poppy time, and they're like little adults. They're no problem at all. It's just, when it's time to take them back, I'm like, I love y'all. And that's a great thing. It's like they get the best part of you. These people had to deal with me being stressed out a lot. Those people don't. They get the best. If you ask Sophia and Olivia, is Poppy stressed out? No, Poppy's great. Like, if you ask them, they'll say, we have no idea who that man is. Officer, I've never seen this man before in my life. But that's typical. I remember when Jared was little, I said something about I was going to have to spank him or something. And I remember sitting at a table with my father, who actually looked at me in the face, and he said, the way I see parents just go and spank their kids unnecessarily. And he said, I just think corporal punishment is completely unnecessary. And I'm just like, is this invasion of the body snatchers? You cannot possibly be the man I grew up with. It was like it's like he'd never heard of it before. It's like the way people just lose their temper and spank their kids. I'm like, call 911. What have you done? But I've heard other people say similar things about grandparents. Back to this, all this is going to connect dots in a minute because I'm thinking about a lot of things. Even the last 2 or 3 meditations I've done, I've used movie quotes because it's Oscars weekend, and of course I'll watch all of it, and it does matter to me. And there's some really powerful movie quotes, and there's some things that you can see on cinema that will get a point across in ways that sermons won't do. There's just a moment when that perfect storm comes together of the right director and the casting and the whatever, and it's like when Proverbs says a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and settings of silver. And when I was going back and reading some of those quotes even this morning, I posted them yesterday, last night, and this morning. There's a lot of spirituality written into scripts like that. A lot of them. It's like very out of the box, affirmation, positive thinking, all that kind of stuff. And so I'm thinking about all of those things, like what is your spirit saying? Why is it that sometimes you'll see, like for instance, I may have said this before, but there's a movie, it came out in the late 70s, Midnight Express. It's based on a true story about the guy that started Amnesty International. He was smuggling hashish out of Turkey, and he was arrested. And it's not family friendly. It's very R-rated. But there's a scene in it. I've never forgotten it. I mean, I can't tell you how it impacted me, but it's a horrible situation where he's in this Turkish prison and there's no way he's going to get out. And then this guy who has done all this terrible stuff to him, he attacks him physically, and I won't tell you what he does to him, but it's gruesome. So what they do is they throw him in a place in the prison that's even worse than the prison. It's like the middle ward of the prison, and it's like in a dungeon, and it's all these these men are like zombies, and all they do, there's this big pillar where they are, and all they do is walk around the pillar, like they're like Night of the Living Dead. They're just like that's all they do. And I think it's kind of a Muslim thing that you walk from, is it left to right or whatever it is, that's what they do to spend their time. So his girlfriend somehow gets a meeting with him and smuggles some money to him, and she sees how bad he's gotten, and she says, "Oh, Billy, you got to get a grip." And he somehow snaps back into reality, and he goes back down to the dungeon when they're meeting through the glass, and all he does is such a powerful visual. All he does is start walking in the opposite direction, and all the other men are like, they're like trying to turn him around, and you can't explain that. You have to see that, and it's just the walking the opposite direction. When everybody's saying you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, it's just a powerful visual image. There's another power at the end of Shawshank Redemption when he climbs through that sewage tunnel, and it says sometimes you have to crawl through 2 miles of excrement, and when he gets out, it's raining, and they get that aerial shot where he lifts his hands up and the rain's washing. You can't. There's not enough sermons in the world that could capture that moment. I've got a lot of feelings about tonight, and I'm getting back. This is all going to connect in a moment, but I feel strongly about several things. I think I I'd like to see Star is Born do something, but Bradley Cooper wasn't nominated for Best Director. I'd like, for his body of work, I thought Black Klansman was a good movie. I don't know that it's best movie material, but for Spike Lee's body of work, I would like to see him acknowledged. So I'm kind of rooting for him. There's a lot more diversity represented. Just so you know, the Academy, it's about 5,000 people in Hollywood who are part of the American Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences. When you say AMPAS, that's what that is. And it's not, it's largely white people who, sometimes that's what's in their purview. And like directors vote for directors. Men typically vote for men. There's a lot of women directors that never get their due, because what's considered admirable in men is sometimes interpreted as a woman's telling everybody what to do. Well, if you're the director, that's what you're supposed to do. So anyway, I mean, in their own way, the Academy has tried to remedy that as much as they can. And even Black Klansman and Black Panther are both nominated for Best Picture this year. So, there's an awakening happening in a lot of places. What's that got to do with spirituality and all that kind of stuff? This is how it's all connecting in my mind today. Because movies are on my mind. Sometimes movies help you think a different way. Let me ask you, have you ever had a movie really speak to you in a way that's like, wow, this changed the way that I think about this? I mean, works of art, they say that Uncle Tom's Cabin, the novel, was really the catalyst for the abolitionist movement. Because when people read, especially people up north where slavery wasn't as prevalent, when they read about the conditions of slavery, that was what, because of, and Abraham Lincoln one time introduced Harriet Beecher Stowe as the little woman who started the Civil War. So fiction based on reality can do something that sermons can't do. And anytime you're feeling bad about your life, go watch It's a Wonderful Life. I'm telling you, it will give you a paradigm shift. And for whatever you think about it, like that little moment where he's on the bridge and he says, "Please God, I want to live." I mean, that we've all, you might not have ever considered suicide, but you have maybe felt hopeless enough to where you needed a paradigm shift to say, no, I want to try this again. I do want to live. I don't want to give up. What's that got to do with teaching about pain bodies and all that kind of stuff? Well, to me, it's walk in the opposite direction, like in that movie, like in Midnight Express. It's just considering the possibility that there might be another way to think about a situation. But I didn't say, "Hey Siri." That's so weird. That was a trip. Usually she doesn't say anything unless I specifically say, "Hey Siri." "Hey Siri, you're freaking me out." See that? Now I heard somebody else's. Yours did it too? When I said, "Hey Siri"?
Stop triggering things.
That has never happened before. It's actually interesting that you use the word trigger, because I was just about to say this. I'm not kidding. when you go back to this idea of the pain body, or why certain things are in your physical body, when you see somebody hypnotize someone, they actually plant triggers in them. It's like the trigger is when you hear a bell, you will cluck like a chicken, or something like that. So the trigger is there, and then they go on and don't realize that anything's been implanted in them. When you go through life, there are certain things that have happened to you that you don't even know you've absorbed until somebody says that thing and hits that trigger. You'd be amazed how many people are going through life hypnotized. They're under somebody else's power of suggestion. Exactly. Yes. When you say somebody's punching my buttons, pressing my buttons, yes, you're hitting somebody's trigger. I've had over the years when I have people would have difficulty with me as a pastor or whatever, I would hear some of the things they'd say, and I think, this isn't about me. This is about something that you've experienced with somebody else that is unresolved in you that you're projecting onto me. I'm not your last pastor. And those triggers are really strong. I remember, Jude, I told you about this one time. I may have just told y'all about this too, but there was a few years ago, there was... Did I just tell you about this, about going to this play and doing the thing with the guy afterwards, doing the panel discussion? Did I just talk about this? I did just talk about this. Yeah. I thought I had just said this. Siri, did I just say this? Hey, Siri, are you listening? She said, did I make you laugh? No, well, the short version is, there was, if you didn't hear me just say this, I may have said it last week, but there was a play about a gay couple, and one of the guys becomes a born-again Christian, and what happens with their relationship. So they asked me and another pastor to come and do a panel discussion afterwards, which was fine. He was an out pastor, and so we were comparing stories in our discussion of things we had gone through. And this woman stands up and she says, I don't understand why you clergymen hate gay people so much. And we're like, well, no, we're on your side. She goes, yeah, but gay people, God loves them too. And we're like, yeah, we know. It's like she couldn't. I thought, you're not even talking to us. You're talking to somebody from your past, and whatever we're saying is triggering you. Finally, I just agreed with her. I said, yeah, well, just pray for us that we'll become more open-minded to the gay community. We're working on it, crazy lady. But that's why sometimes if something happens to you, you really overreact to it. You have to ask yourself, why did that make me so angry? Or why did they get me so upset? Or why did, whatever. And if I teach this next month, I don't want to open old wounds. That's not where I'm going. There's no, this is not going to be maudlin. This is not going to be, telling sad tales. Even when I tell you about what happened to me in first grade, I'm telling it to you with detachment. I'm not telling it to you from I'm upset about it. I love being left-handed. I like being, I'm right-brained, I'm artistic, whatever. All the things that people told me were wrong with me as I've gotten older, no, that's what's right with me. That's why that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story resonates with me so much, because the red nose becomes a symbol for what everybody thought was wrong with you is actually what's really right with you. So I'm fine with it. I'm not mad at her or anything. I'm trying to figure out, is there some connection? And if that's not it, well, then tell me something else. Sometimes it just takes a word or something to say, oh, maybe maybe that's what it is. I remember, now I have no way of validating this story, but I remember preaching at a place in Florida when I was still in college. And I remember meeting a guy there who told me, because I was big into praying for people to be healed and that kind of stuff. I did healing lines and all that kind of stuff. And I taught one night about how a wrong thought can keep you from manifesting your healing. I mean, the things I still believe today. And he told me that, he said years ago, one of his legs was 4 to 5 inches shorter than the other. His whole life he had worn a built-up shoe. And he was raised Catholic, and he went to a priest one time, and he asked the priest if God would heal him. And the priest said to him, no, God doesn't do creative miracles like that anymore. And he said, I just believed it. Well, then sometime later, the priest got in, I don't know if it was sexual trouble, whatever it was, this priest was exposed as being a bad guy. I'm wanting to say it had something to do with sexual impropriety. Whatever it was, it invalidated the words of that priest to him. And he said, I remember saying to myself, well, if he was wrong, if he was lying, if he was hypocrite, if he was wrong about that, maybe he was wrong about my leg. And he said, as God is my witness, as I said the thought, I felt my leg grow out. And he showed me, he said, it's still a little bit off, but he said it grew like a good 3 inches just when I was released. He said, and I said, it was like the guy's spell over you was broken. Because if you're taught not to question authority, and an authority figure tells you, no, healing isn't for you, then you'll believe that. Now, fast forward some years later, I'm sure I've told you this story, but I was in Panama. My dad and I were doing a outreach there. And I was praying for people, had a healing line. I'd say 1,500 people in the line. So it takes a long time. You know, it's probably a congregation of about 5,000 people, about 1,500 people came up for healing. So when you're praying for that many people, you've got people just moving them through. You're like, you know, you're like, nombre de Jesus, you moving through. I mean, you just do, because it takes a long time. So this woman comes up and she has a little boy. And so I asked the interpreter, what's the issue? And she said, he's deaf in one ear. And I got to tell you, I grew up in healing tent revivals. I'd never prayed for anybody that was healed of deafness. That was completely not on my way. So I did what I thought you were supposed to do. I prayed for him. I spoke to, and so this is what I had seen healing evangelists do. I did like that, and he could hear. But they were so, the little boy was so kind of, like, I would think if you could hear for the first time, you'd be like freaking out. And he wasn't freaking out like I thought people should freak out. So I said, ask her, you're telling me he has never heard out of this ear and now he can hear out of it? And he asked her, she says, yes. And she's got tears streaming down. I said, he couldn't hear and now he can hear. She says, yes. I said, well, then why aren't they don't seem that shocked by it. And he said, well, that's what you told her was going to happen. You know, I don't know if that was because I was an American. I don't know. I don't know all the perception that came from, but this woman in this little village in the country of Panama believed, because I said, do you believe he can hear? And she said, yeah. And I said, all right. And so now he can hear. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This has never happened before. I need documentation. I mean, this is big. I mean, when you get a deaf healing on your resume, I mean, you're one step away from Benny Hinn. You know, that's like, this is a whole new career. But what impressed me is she said, well, that's what you said was going to happen. So she believed, you know, and I remember I had still had too many people to pray for. So I remember them walking away thinking, there's so many things I want to ask you. But I mean, I kept checking. I said, you can hear. Yes. You can see. But you couldn't hear before. No. But you can hear now. Yes. Why am I more excited about this than you are? But then you think about, because really all hypnosis is the power of suggestion. Even when we look at the word spell, like spelling bee or spell check or whatever, that's where the word incantation comes from. You cast a spell over someone. There are certain words spoken over you that if you believe them, they plant triggers in you, and you don't even realize, oh, this is why this thing happens to me. When somebody says this is like, it's on autopilot. I'm not even, and that goes back to the whole thing about the pain body. I'm not even trying to make this happen. There's this other thing speaking through me. It's my past. It's my, unresolved issues, that sort of thing. It's interesting. I've actually talked to several people lately about acupuncture. Like, well, because I did it once years ago, and I'm interested. Like, the concept behind acupuncture, in layman's terms, is to release the energy that's already in your body to heal itself. That there are things that block the flow, whether you call that, is it chi? I don't know. Like whatever you call that thing, a healing light or whatever. What is the thing that blocks it? What if you're carrying around thoughts or perceptions or whatever that they just need to be challenged? You just need to walk in the opposite direction from the way everybody is walking. If you get a chance, you might not have a taste for the whole movie, but I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. If you ever get a chance to see that scene that I'm talking about, what's interesting to me is the guy, people keep grabbing him by the shoulder and saying, no, you're going the wrong way, and turning him around. And he has to intentionally walk the other direction. That's really all repentance is. So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I know I'm all over the place today. But somehow there's a lot of dots being connected. I didn't see a weather report for today. I don't. Ken, he loves the weather app. When we're getting ready in the morning, I'm like, what's the weather like today? And he's telling me about barometric pressure. And so I was like, no, stick your head out the window. I'm just asking. You're giving me way too much information. Well, tomorrow it's going to be a low. I'm like, oh, never mind. I just want to know, is it cold out? I'm trying to decide what I'm going to wear. And usually he knows days ahead. Like every one of the meditation weekends that we've done have all had bad weather reports. All 4 that we've done. And he's, each one he says, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I just want to tell you. I'm like, don't even tell me. I don't even need to know. Why are you even telling me? The devil is he's trying to help. But I don't know what the weather report was going to be today. All I know is we joked about sunshine last night, and now there's sunshine. I mean, I don't know. It may be a fluke. In the scriptures, a voice spoke out of heaven, and some people thought they heard an angel. Other people thought it thundered. So maybe sunshine was predicted today. I don't know. Maybe it was. If it was, don't tell me. I would rather think that somehow, in our crazy way, us joking about going to the Bahamas brought a little Bahamishness into our reality. Do not meet me afterwards and goes, no, they predicted it's going to be clear and sunny today. Shut up, I hate you. I'm looking for people who will believe in the possibility of magic. And ideally, that's what the movies are about. That's why I honor the Oscars, because I think it is a valid art form that can actually change people's perceptions about things and make them think differently in ways that words can't do it. You know, in Habakkuk, he says, I will stand up on my tower and I will watch to see what he says to me. In other words, God will speak to me in pictures. And sometimes it takes a picture of something. And I'll end it with this. Somehow I was scrolling through in the last few hours, and when I see people are being argumentative about anything, about politics, about the Bible, I just unfollow them. It's like, I'm not going to block you. I just don't want to see all your... I got enough drama in my life. I don't need to take on yours. So y'all go on your page and argue about whatever. Even, I think you had posted something about your heart knows things that your head doesn't know yet or whatever. And this whole thing about... there's some things I know that I wish I didn't know, and the jury's still not out on this, but this thing with Jussie Smollett, I think he's great. I think he's smart. I think he's a good actor. I like the show. He's a cute guy. He's a positive gay role model who's playing a gay character. Believe me, I know homophobia exists, but I remember Ken called me and he said, did you see that back when it first happened? He said, did you see the thing about Jussie Smollett? And before I said, that didn't happen. He said, I said, I just know it didn't. And I don't have any reason to doubt him because I know hate crimes happen. And I like this guy. I think he's adorable. I would have no reason to, but there was just, when he said it, I said, oh man, I hope I'm wrong. But that didn't happen. And now he's still claiming his innocence. So if it turns out, you know, I'll come back and retract what I just said. But there are things that your spirit knows. And it wasn't even just, when I heard the whole thing, I thought, you know, I don't think there's a lot of people walking around Chicago wearing MAGA hats. I don't think that's not really, it's not even a good, huh? Like, that's not even a good one. It's just like, come on. And furthermore, if there's going to be a gay hate crime, there's everybody from RuPaul to whoever, there's way outrageous, flamingly effeminate gay stereotypes all over TV. If somebody was going to go after somebody for that, I'm thinking one of those guys would be the target more than this guy. And even when he says, well, it's because I've been outspoken about Trump. Well, most of Hollywood's been outspoken about Trump, so you can't play that card. But again, there's things that you know, you're like, oh, I hope I'm wrong about this. But and I hate it because then when somebody does actually have a hate crime, it's like, oh, now you've buttressed the whole fake news idea, make people think it's going to be harder for real victims to come forward. I hate it on every level. I hate it for the show. I hate it for African Americans. I hate it for the gay community. I hate it for him. I hate it because, like, man, you just did something so bad for yourself. So, you know, I'm saying that to say we're very tuned in to truth. But back to what I was saying about this morning. I was seeing people arguing online about Jussie Smollett, about Trump, about the Bible, about abortion, there was just like, as soon as I turned on my computer, it was like an argument came out of it. And a lot of it was based on scriptures, people throwing scriptures back and forth at each other. And I thought, Paul, when you said the letter kills, you said a mouthful. That's probably the most profound and truest thing you said out of all 23 of your epistles, the letter kills. Yep, it does. Because it keeps people from doing what they know is right. Can I get really, really real with you? I know I've said I was going to stop, but I lied. Quite honestly, when I look back, I haven't, if I was going to make a case for Christians, it wouldn't be based on their happiness or love. It wouldn't. I mean, I wish I could say, Christians, the happiest group of people in the world, come to Jesus and you'll be happy. I'm like, I don't know a lot of happy Christians. Well, it's because of their love. And they'll know we are, not so much, not so much. It's like Gandhi said, I love your Christ, it's your Christians I don't like. And I'm not throwing Christians under the bus, I'm just saying we got to be real about it. There's just some things that you just know in your heart are right. I don't want to argue with you over hell anymore. I already get my schools of the Bible. There's 5 of them. They're still available. See Avery if you. I went through everything the Bible ever said about hell or people thought it said about. I have made the hell point. I just want to go on the gut level that says it doesn't make sense that a God who tells you to forgive your enemies is going to torture his forever in hell. I mean, you don't need scripture for that. That just sounds like that doesn't even make sense. Now, if God is love, why is he so pissed off at everybody? And he's going to torture. He tells you got to forgive 70 times 7, but he can't ever let it go. That just said, I don't need a Bible verse for that. I can just tell you, if there is a God, that don't make sense. Love, at the end of the day, is really the only thing that does make sense. Period. Does that make sense? Just say it does. If you don't say it makes sense, I'll never shut up. So, y'all better say that, or you ain't getting out of here. Let's all stand. I'll have an outline next week. I'll be back. I'll bring my A game back next week. What? Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That's him. Really good actor. He died years ago, but that's all of them going that direction, and I love that silhouette of him walking in the opposite direction. Yeah, very, very powerful image. And you have to see that. You can't hear that. You have to see it. Really?
The outline's beautiful. It's also beautiful. We did a lot of this on Thursday.
Yeah, we did. Well, I feel better because I've said everything that I was thinking about. Y'all are going to enjoy me so much more tonight. Now that I've said all of this, now I just want to. That has never. You usually have to say, "Hey Siri," for her to say that, and it's just so interesting that she picked up on the word possibility. That has never happened. What? That has never happened before. You got anything you want to say? Say whatever you want to say, and then we'll play the outro, and then I'll let you go. I love you so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having ears to hear. I'll see you in the Bahamas.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about the Oscars tonight, man. I've seen every single Oscar movie that is nominated, besides Roma. But yeah, I really want Green. Is it Green Book? Yeah, I really want Green. Oh my God, it's got to win. It's either that or Vice for me. But anyway, yeah, today opened up a lot of windows that are interesting to explore this next month. So I'm excited about being here with you guys. And it's so true, man. Just like discovering where is that root cause of whatever your pain is. You know, we all have that in us, and we end up arguing about symptoms a lot, you know. That's where the whole divisiveness comes from when we're talking, whether it be Trump or politics or Christianity or whatever it is for you. Let's talk about the cause. Let's figure out where the pain is coming from instead of just the the fact that we're in pain. And when we get to that root, I think we'll be able to make real change. So I'm going to pray for you, and then we'll get out of here. Father God, I thank you for this awesome day. God, I thank you that our lives are just like a movie. And God, we're the star character in that movie. God, I ask that you help us this week and for the rest of our lives to create a masterpiece, to have an adventure, God, to create a magical romantic comedy, God, just whatever it is that we're searching for in our lives, whatever we want to title the movie that is our life. God, I just say that we're able to be that star actor or actress in our own lives, and that we're able to surround ourselves with positive characters, God, that we know who our villains are, but we can even love them because they're serving a purpose for us in our lives. God, I say that this is an amazing word that went forth today. It's like a seed planted into our hearts. It grows into a tree that bears fruit of life. And I say that this is the best week we've ever had, and that we are the generation that will change this world. In the name of Jesus Christ, if you believe it, can you say amen? Amen. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.